Hello everyone, welcome. You guys are chiming in here to a Tesla themed video. A video that I'm actually super excited about. I had no idea that she had created this one. She would not let me come upstairs and see any of the work she was doing while this was happening. This is part one of a two-part series for the Tesla nails that she's working on. And I think you guys are gonna love it just as much as I did. So please look forward to her future videos as well.
So for this first one, we're going to make a base for the car. So I'm using poster putty, but you could also use something like polymer clay. And that poster putty has a bunch of different names. Sometimes it's called picture putty or blue tack, but it's basically just this slightly moldable sticky stuff that I use all the time. Anyways, I don't know how to talk. I'm going to mold it into kind of the rough shape of the inside of the car. So the reason I say the inside is because you want it to be slightly smaller than you want the vehicle to be in the end, because you're going to be sculpting around it. So you have to just kind of keep in mind that it is going to end up bigger than what you are shaping here. So have a picture of the vehicle next to you and then just press it out into that generalized shape of the car. And then once you have it and it's pretty good, then you're going to want to grab something like a brush cover or a pen or basically anything that you don't need to use for a while and stick that blue tack or poster putty, what have you, to that as a handle. So you have something to hold on to while you are working on your vehicle. So it's pressed into that shape. I'm going to perfect the shape just a little bit more. And now I'm going to paint it with a base layer of white school glue. I'm actually using a product that is intentionally made for nails. It's called Freedom Liquid by Wildflowers, but it's basically white school glue, like Elmer's glue. So now after I have that done, I've got 2 coats of that glue on there. Then I'm going to use an ultra fine point marker, a permanent marker like a Sharpie, to draw out just the rough shapes of the different parts of the car. For me, the most important shape here are the wheel wells and then the door that is going to end up being separate from the car so that it'll open up. So I'm drawing in these windows just for kind of a guideline, but they're not as important as, like I said, the wheel wells and that car door that's going to be opening up. So now that we have those little bits drawn on, let them dry so that they're not going to smear, at least not too bad once you begin to sculpt around it. And I'm going to sculpt it with white acrygel. I said white and I really did not mean white. I meant clear. Now you could use white. In fact, white probably would have saved me a step in this because I ended up painting my car white anyways. But just for the sake of having some clarity to see those bits through it, like the car door, it is easier to do it with clear so that you can make sure that you can see through it. But if you're not planning on making it with an opening car door, I probably would use a color. So if you have, if you want to do a white car, then you could use white. Or if you want to do a blue car, I know that there are some blue acrygels, not by any major manufacturers that I've seen, like your professional nail brands usually stick with the pink and white natural. But I think that there are a few like off of Amazon, and then Madame Glam has some colored acrygel as well. So we're going to be pressing out that acrygel product all over this car. And as you can see, my little pen marks are starting to, smear a little bit, but it's not the end of the world. The biggest reason that they are starting to kind of, blend out a little bit is the fact that the slip solution on the brush will dissolve that permanent marker, which is nice to know. I mean, if you ever get permanent markers somewhere you don't want to, the slip solution will work just as well as any rubbing alcohol will, or even hand sanitizer. But anyways, we're going to keep working on this, making sure that we don't get the acrygel in those wheel wells, try to keep those clear as best as possible. And everything else pretty much gets covered up on the car though. So then after you have this, do not cure it quite yet. Leave it in this wet, very sticky stage. And you're going to want to grab a magnet. So I'm also making this car chargeable. So I want to place the magnet right where the charging port is on a Model X, which is right kind of by that tail light on the driver's side. So press the magnet in and then press the acrygel up and around it to really hold it into place. If you need to add a little bit more acrygel on top of it, just to make sure it's not going to go anywhere, that is a great idea too, because you don't want that magnet to come out. Then you're going to take a craft knife and you're going to cut out the gull wing door. Now, if you're not doing a Tesla Model X, then it wouldn't necessarily be a gull wing door, but if you want it to be an opening door, you're going to cut out the door. So just take and very carefully trace the shape that you have drawn out, which is, like I said, the benefit of using a clear acrygel versus a color, is if you do want to have this opening door element. Once that has cured, now we're going to cleanse the car and then very carefully work the poster putty out from the inside. It may help, and I did not not do this for who knows what reason, but if you soak this in some warm water, it'll dissolve that glue product, whether you use something like the Wildflowers Freedom Liquid or actual just white glue, it will dissolve it. And then this will hopefully come out a little easier for you. Sometimes I get like so excited just to move on to the next step. I skip some of these beneficial little things, you know how that goes. And so I did not do this. I just started working and trying to get that poster putty out from inside my car. And you'll see what happened in just a second, because this is such a delicate piece since that acrygel is so thin at this particular moment. So I'm working that poster putty out. Now, if you did not put the glue product on between the poster putty and your acrygel, it wouldn't come out at all. It'd be stuck. But with that little bit of glue, it does create a bit of a film so that it won't completely stick down, but it's still stuck pretty good. And as you saw, my car broke in half, which would be very devastating if this was done, but it's not even close to done, so it really wasn't that big a deal. Just had to put it back together. So I'm going to pull out that last little bit of poster putty, thank goodness, scrape out any little remaining bits that there are, and then I'm going to glue my car back together with acrygel, or reattach it together with some more of that acrygel. So I'm going to take and just kind of work in a little tiny dab at the two places where it broke, and then grab my other piece that's missing and just line them up so that they fit back in. It's not that, it really wasn't that difficult, but it's good to know, how to fix it if you run into the same problem like I did. I mean, nobody wants to run into a problem, but they happen when you're creating these ridiculous things. So then after that's cured and it's all reassembled again, then like I said, this is very delicate because it is so thin. I sculpted basically the thinnest layer I possibly could on top of that bit of poster putty. So I'm going to reinforce everything, and I'm going to add a fairly thick, really nice layer on the inside of my car. So I'm going through and not trying to change the shape of it as far as like the door especially, or the wheel wells, but just kind of adding a thick, almost kind of soft roundy shape on the inside, just to make sure that everything is very, very, very strong. You don't want this to break. And I say that because I broke it at least twice in the creating of this design. But now we're going to bend a small piece of wire into a tight U shape. I did that by just going around a dotting tool. And then after we have that tight U shape, bend it in an L. So I hope you guys could see that shape that I created. So the U will tip up. So as you're putting it in there, if you're fitting it into the top of where the hinge for the car door will be, the little bead will sit above the car. And that's really what you need to get the movement that the gull wing door has. So we're going to re-bend that a little bit just to make it exactly the shape that I'm going for. And I'm going to place a little bit more acrygel inside that area where the hinge is going to go. Spread that out so it's not just a big glob right in the middle. And then I'm going to grab my bit of wire with my little seed bead. So if anybody wants to know, I've got questions on this quite a few times about what the beads are that I use. They're glass jewelry beads, or like beadwork beads, embroidery beads. And you can find them pretty much at any craft store, Michael's, Hobby Lobby, Joann's. Those are the three that are in the area that I live. But if you have a arts and crafts or a jewelry store, they should have these little glass beads, and they come in every color under the sun. So I'm going to press that little bead onto that place where the hinge is going to go, top of the car, and then I'm going to grab my door that's just been sitting to the side and attach it to the bead. So the wire is attached to the car, the bead is attached to the door, and you don't want to have any of that messed up, because if your bead gets stuck to your wire, or the bead gets stuck to the main part of the car, or your door gets stuck to the wire, if anything goes wrong there, it's not going to open. So you just need to make sure that you're very cautious when you're attaching all these things. I'm going to flash cure that. Since I'm wearing gloves, I'm not too worried about touching the wet acrygel, and I'm going to open up my door, and I'm going to apply another layer to the inside of it because it didn't get that thickening, strengthening treatment like the rest of the car did before. And while I'm doing that, I'm also going to string a little bit of that acrygel up over and attach it to the bead on the other side too, so that it really is secure. And now I'm going to start my painting process. I'm going to paint the inside with black just to kind of create a blank slate and black it out. And that's going to help cover up your red Sharpie too, if you are worried about that. And at this point, if you're going to do a black car, I wouldn't have painted the interior black because it'll show through the clear acrygel and you won't be able to tell anyway at the end of it. But since I did want it to be a white vehicle, when the car door was opened, I didn't want there to just be this kind of weird white foggy look to the inside of it. So a simple blackout seemed like the way to go. So I'm going to black out the entire interior of the car, cure it, and that does include the door. And then I'm going to, after that's cured, I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to black out the rest of the wheel wells that I did not get on the first go around. So just making sure I got the entire little lip on the inside of the wheel well. And I'm also going to paint the bottom of the vehicle black. So I've got the little insides done, and this is with black gel paint. The reason I'm using gel paint for this is because I had to have it out to do some of the other stuff I'm going to do when I start adding some chrome effects. And since I was going to have it out anyway, I might as well use it. But if you wanted to use something like a acrylic paint instead, then that is, I think, just a little bit easier to work with, and that would be an option. So I'm going to paint all my windows as the next part of it with that same black gel paint. So I'm going to just kind of hold the car gently and very carefully paint all these pieces in place. The reason I say hold the car gently is because if it was like a bar of soap, and if I held it too tight, it like flipped out of my fingers. And so if you just want to hold it very carefully so it doesn't do one of those little Houdini moves on you. And then you're going to want to paint, so you got the windows on the side of the car, and then it's almost as if we cut this in half down the middle. So you're going to want to paint half the windshield and then half of the rear windshield. Now we're going to be burnishing some black chrome after that gel paint has cured. You're going to burnish black chrome into the windows. So when you're doing this, my black chrome actually looks more like a charcoal chrome, but it gives just like it's been tinted, it gives them a very nice car window effect, like they're maybe in the sunshine and they have some reflections on them. Instead of keeping the windows clear, which was the other option that I was toggling between. And I decided these chromed out windows would be kind of nice and modern and go with the whole Tesla vibe. And now I'm going to be painting the rest of the car white. So I'm going to very carefully do this, and I dusted off the car to remove as much of that black chrome as I could so that it wouldn't mix with my white gel paint and create kind of a shimmery, foggy sort of deal. So as you're painting this, like I said, you have to be very careful. You don't want to paint over your windows. You have to be cautious of the areas that should be black, like around the bottom of the car and around the wheels, and just keep, slow and steady is the way to go here. And if you need to flash cure at any point, just to make sure you don't smear something, that's always an option, and something that I am very pro. I flash cure way more often than you ever see in my videos, just because a lot of times I stick it in my lamp and my lamp isn't on camera. But just know that I flash cure with some pretty serious frequency. So now after I have that, I don't know if you guys saw the little jump in video, that was a flash cure. But then I'm going to close the door and I'm going to paint the door white, and just try to make sure that you're not letting the gel paint get stuck between like the door and the other parts of the car. You just saw me flash cure with my flash cure flashlight. That's to make sure that my door doesn't get stuck down, because the gel paint will create like a little glue effect and hold it shut if you're not careful. Paint the rest of it, paint the front of it, paint the hood, and then there's that little stripe that goes right across the top of the car. Otherwise, the entire top of the vehicle is a big window, so that would be that black chrome from before. Just that little stripe that goes between the side windows and that rooftop window. And now I'm going to burnish some white chrome powder into the white gel paint. I didn't want this to just be white. I wanted it to have a little bit of something extra, and that white chrome is just a really nice pearly color for it. So we're going to be burnishing all of that into it. When you're doing this, same thing, get it everywhere, take your time. I did not rush any part of this car in creating it because I didn't want to have to fix it any more times than I really needed to. And like I said, I broke it more than once. The other time I broke it is Melody woke up in the middle of the night and she was having a nightmare, poor girl. And so I basically threw it into my lamp with some ridiculous haste, ripped off my gloves, and ran upstairs like a mad woman. So that was the second time I broke it. Anyways, after you got all that burnished in, we're going to dust it. And then after it's dusted, we're going to just we're going to add some more details to our car. So I'm going to go back through with some black gel paint, and I haven't top coated my chrome. I didn't want to add too much of like a bulky look to this by having too many layers of top coat. So I'm just going right from chrome to gel paint, no top coat between. And when I say extra details to this car, there's a lot of little lines that need to be added. We have the rear door, obviously, that opens up, but there's the front door for the driver, and then you have the headlights, the little details on the front of the car where the grille would normally be, and the different details. You have to outline the frunk. And I'm just going to say, in case if you're not aware of this detail, Teslas do not have an engine in the front of the vehicle, so they have a frunk, which is a front trunk, and something that Terrell is obsessed with. as I'm sure he's going to be watching this video. He's probably going to be like, obsessed? Really, Katie? But yes, obsessed. So we've got the details on the front, and then you got to go through and do the details on the back. We have a tail light. You're going to want to add little outlines for the handles of the car doors on the side. I did that already, but don't forget that. You want to add the outlines of the trunk on the back as well. Just a little detail of the back bumper. Basically, add as much detail as you'd like to. The more you add, the more realistic it gets. You need to add the Tesla T to the back of the car too. And then with some, it's either, liquid chrome, or Madame Glam has a product that's called silver chrome base, or silver metallic base. That's what it is. It's basically a chrome paint. I'm going to be adding the chrome outlines to the windows on the side of the car. And I also did that chrome paint on the door handles to make them look a little bit chromy. And then after those are done, then I'm going to take and just kind of add some more details, a little bit of white in the headlight, and you're going to need to add a little bit of a red line on the tail light. And then in my infinite wisdom, I did forget to add a rear view mirror before doing all of the painting. And I was looking at this and I was thinking, something is missing. And then all of a sudden it hit me and I was like, duh, a rear view mirror. So I'm going to be adding my rear view mirror with a little bit more of that clear acrygel, painting it with my white gel paint, and adding the details that should have really been added previously. So I've got the white gel paint, black on the other side for where the actual mirror would be, flash curing both of those, and then I'm going to burnish them right away and then do the full cure, just because I was like, oh no, and so I wanted to hurry up. This car was ridiculously time consuming. It was like 3 days of my life. I would say I spent about 8 hours on this set, a long time. But then we're going to be applying some matte gel top coat over the entire vehicle, just to make sure that everything kind of gets a nice sealed layer. That gel paint is a lint magnet, and so I never like to leave it uncoated for very long, or at least any longer than I have to. Like I said, lint magnet, and just there's little fibers everywhere. So just carefully apply that top coat over everything. When you're doing the car door, try to make sure that it doesn't seal itself shut. And then I'm going to apply some glossy gel sealer over just the windows and the little chrome bits. So the chrome on the little handles, and then the chrome on top there on the outlines of the window. So that would be on the top of the vehicle too, because that is essentially a huge window. And anytime you want to cure between like these bits of top coat, like I cured between doing the side window and the top window just to make sure that I didn't smudge it. Like I said, smudging, no fun. Cure whenever you really want to. And I also did the tail light and the headlight with the glossy too, just to make sure that that stayed nice and shiny. And then I'm also going to top coat the inside of the car, because that is still gel paint and it was still raw, or sticky, I guess. I don't know why I said raw. That's kind of a weird description word for it, but top coat everything. So now this is going to be dependent on whether or not your door opens. And if it does, then you're going to want to sculpt a seat, because otherwise when you open the car, it's just going to be nothing. So I'm going to use the clear acrygel again and sculpt the top of the seat and the seat of the seat, or the back of the seat and the seat of the seat, on a nail form backing. So the top of the seat, oh my goodness, the back of the seat is that first piece, and I'm sculpting these separately, and then after they're done, I'm going to cure them, and then I'm going to attach them together. So I'm going to put down a little bit more clear acrygel, pick up the back, hold it with my little offset tweezers, and set it into that little bit of acrygel that I am using as glue, and then flash cure it with my flash cure flashlight, holding it up at an angle, and then do a full cure, just to make sure that it is going to stay exactly where I want it. And then apply another layer of acrygel over the top of the whole thing, just to make sure that it is fully attached. And this is also a time when you can add a little bit of contour to the back and give it kind of that lumbar shape if you'd like to, if you want to go that deep into it. Now I'm going to be painting the back of the seat after everything is cured with some black gel paint, again, just to kind of black it out and make it not that visible, or not distracting. And then after that's cured, I'm going to be applying the black gel paint to the sides of the seat. So Tesla's bucket seats have black on like the edges, and then they have the white across the front and across the seat. So we're going to paint the rest of the seat with some white gel paint, once again making sure that you don't go too far and overlap something that really should be black. But then once you have everything painted out with the white, you can cure it. And then once that's cured, you're going to take more black paint and add a couple little details. So things like seatbelt, and then just a couple little outlines for some of the stitching in the vegan leather. So just a couple little outlines, really quick, easy. And these are something that if you would like to skip, you could. And then apply some matte top coat over the entire seat, cure it one more time, and then we can attach this to the inside of the car. So I'm going to take some of that clear acrygel and apply that to the bottom, a fairly significant amount of it too. And then I'm going to use my little brush to kind of catch it all, make sure it's in a nice glob, grab my offset tweezers, and then set it into the car so that it is right inside that gull-wing door. So when it opens up, you can see it. And now back to our nail form backing, we're going to be sculpting the two wheels. So place down two bits of the clear acrygel and then pat them out into the rough shape of a circle. If they're not perfect, it is not a huge deal. One of mine was way bigger than the other one, so I just got rid of a little bit of that product and moved it off to the side and kind of really get these as round as you can. But then once you have them in their pretty good shape, you're going to take something like a dotting tool, or I just use my little craft knife, and gouge a hole in the middle. You want to try to go all the way through to the nail form backing so that there's no product in the way of your bead, and then set a bead in the middle of each wheel. Press the acrygel back up to the bead so that there's no gap between the bead and the product, and then cure that. Once that's cured, you can cleanse them and then file them into a really nice circle shape. Once you have them and they're filed all the way down to the circle size that you need, you're going to be painting them with some black gel paint. Woohoo! More black gel paint. Paint the whole tire with the black gel paint. And then after that's done, then you're going to want to do your silver chrome paint or your silver metallic silver base, like what I said Madame Glam has. And you're just going to do some of the details on like where the hubcap would be. So I'm going to do a circle with the silver and then just create some really nice, really classic pinwheel type lines from that center bead to that circle that you drew. So nothing too crazy. I mean, there's some really fancy ones that I know that you can get, but just doing pretty simple for this particular design. And then after you have all those done, apply some matte top coat over the entire tire. And then after you have that done, you're going to go back through with some glossy gel top coat or gel sealer, either one really. And you're going to go over just that little bit that is silver so that the silver really shines and it doesn't look gray. It actually looks like it's a metallic, really chromy look. And so just carefully apply that over that entire area, trying to avoid getting any on the black because it will show up as a darker color. But then string a bead over a piece of wire and glue it so that it won't move. And then put your wheel on top of that and then cut off any extra wire that happens to be sticking out, and then use a little tiny bit more of your clear acrygel as a stopper on the other end of the wire. Pat that out and then cure it again. Now again, we're going to do the last bit to assemble the car. So we're going to place a really large glob of clear acrygel out on a nail form backing and then press it out into the rough shape of our vehicle. And if you have your car next to it, you can either trace it if you want to go really, spectacularly perfect with it, or just set the car next to it and eyeball it, which is obviously what I did. I just eyeballed it because it doesn't have to be perfect. And then once you have it done that far, press the car into it. You can really feel it kind of like sink in. And then you're going to take and you're going to grab one wheel and you're going to hold it. And then you're going to press the end of the wire into that wet acrygel that's on the nail form backing under the car and then flash cure it. And it doesn't flash cure super quickly because there is a lot interfering between the lamp and the gel since there's so much car in the way. So you have to be very careful. One thing I did end up doing is actually open the gull-wing door and flash cured it through the car, and that worked out pretty well. So if you're having trouble getting your wheels to stay in place, that is an option. But here is the full design. I'll be uploading the other video for it, which will show how I did the background of the nails as well as the supercharger tomorrow. So if you are Tesla obsessed, definitely come back for that one. I know that this set was a huge accomplishment for me. It was the most crazy over the top set I've done since anything for NTNA, and I absolutely loved it. I hope you guys love it as much as I do. I cannot wait to make more crazy things like this in the future. So if you aren't yet, please do subscribe to my channel because you never know what I'm going to think of, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.